Good morning everybody, or afternoon or evening or whatever time it is that you are watching this. It's morning here, so I am armed with much caffeine. It's really early. What I thought I would do, seeing as this is the welcome email for the start of the Newbie to Know-It-All knitting course, I thought I'd introduce myself a little bit and explain a little bit about how I got into what I do and why I am qualified to tell you anything about knitting and how to do it. So, I started knitting when I was 17 years old. I was diagnosed with a malignant melanoma, which is a skin cancer. I had to have an operation on my foot, which left me unable to walk for several weeks. And it's safe to say at 17 I got very bored. I grew up with my grandparents, so my nana had some knitting things lying around, so I taught myself how to knit with my nana's help and books that we had, which we had a lot of knitting books, various resources. I taught myself to knit and I fell in love with it. At that point I thought I wanted to be a graphic designer. I was going to college to do a foundation course, and it's a good job that that course also had a textiles element, because I hated graphic design once I started doing it, and I loved textiles and knew that I liked knitting because I'd been doing it since before I started college. So from there on I went and got a degree in knitting, which a lot of people think is ridiculous and that it's a fake degree and you can't get a degree in it. Technically, I have a degree in textile crafts, specialising in hand knitting, but for all intents and purposes, I have a degree in knitting. I have had an article published in a local newspaper about my final major project at university, which was quite exciting. I also was asked to write a column for the Yorkshire Times, which is an online local newspaper, which I did, and I loved writing that column, but university commitments got in the way eventually and I had to give that one up. I have taught lots of workshops, in-person workshops, in yarn stores and cafes and all over the place, and I really enjoy doing those workshops, but they are limited by how far I can travel. I've only just learned to drive. I'm 25, no judgment please, but I am limited by how far I can travel, and I'm also limited by my 9-to-5 job. I'm so passionate about knitting. I do think it's a really wonderful craft, and to be honest, I'm passionate about all crafts. I think crafts of all types have massive amount of value in just personal well-being. As you can probably gather from the story of how I started knitting, getting diagnosed with cancer at 17 was quite a scary experience for me. I didn't have to go through chemo or anything, so that was good, but it was a scary experience, and knitting has helped me through it. Knitting has got me through a lot of very difficult times, and I know lots of other people attest to the same things. There is a post on my blog which goes into some of the benefits, and there's links to different websites who also advocate crafts and knitting for helping with mental health, physical health, pain, various other things. So I am so passionate about crafts and knitting especially, because I think it's amazing. So now that you're acquainted with me, what I would love for you to do is head on over to the Facebook group, which there will be a link to in this email, the Newbie to Know-It-All Facebook group, and I would absolutely love for you to introduce yourself in there and tell me why you want to start knitting, what it is that you think you could get out of it, whether it's purely because your friend's having a baby and you want to be able to make them a cardigan, or whether it's because you're going through some stuff right now and you need something to distract you and give you a support system. Whatever it is, it's a private group. You will only be accepted into it if you have signed up for the course. There's no judgments, and once we get into the course, the idea is that if you're struggling with anything, you can always get to me and I can always help you with whatever you're struggling with. but also the hopes is that it will build a community, and in that community you'll be able to discuss it with each other, and it will be like a giant knit and natter. So if you're like me and you don't really like leaving your house unless you absolutely have to, this will be great for you. So without further ado, I am going to leave this here. I think you know me well enough by now, and I will see you in lesson 1. I can't wait.